Sounds like the new season's up and running. The West Ham Voice, West Ham Weekly's back. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all had a good summer. I've done, as you know, I've done a load of pre-recordeds, but very few live shows. I just wanted to give myself a bit of a break, I guess. But I'm back. The season starts on Saturday, sorry, against Sunderland. And I've got a special guest. It's always a pleasure when he comes on because I told him just before we came on, I think that the way he talks about football is way beyond my capability. So I'm going to bring him on in a minute. But I hope you're all doing well. If you're new to the channel, first time you're watching the West Ham Weekly, please become a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, if you enjoy the show, please hit the like button. But batten down the hatches because this ain't a 10-minute show. It normally goes on for a little while. We're going to talk all things West Ham, of course, a little bit about the game, catch up on the friendly against Lille, an awful lot about transfers, about players possibly leaving, especially the one or two players that we've heard about earlier today, and some players coming in, and what we think about the players that we've signed already. I'm sure you've all got your views on that. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Good evening, Dan. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. How are you?
I'm very well. Where should we kick off? Why don't we start with our new signing, shall we? It's been a bit of an odd transfer window, to say the least. And it's been the typical transfer window I think we all expected, where now that Tim Steidten ain't flying around the world, bringing players in on a jet, it looks like we're sending out a dinghy boat to bring the players over. How fucking slow it's taking them to get here. What's your take on the signings that we've made so far this summer?
I will just say, just because you've mentioned Tim there, the one thing I will always stand up for Tim on is that he got them over the line. Like he just got it done, like he got on with it. It just, I said to you, didn't I, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I haven't really paid as much attention as I usually do with the transfer window. I think I've had a bit of like West Ham and football fatigue, to be honest with you. But and I think it's because the minute that obviously Tim was relieved of his duties and it was like Sally's going to be at the wheel again, I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do social media this summer. But yeah, I don't hate the business so far. There's some question marks, obviously, about Wilson's fitness, maybe, and the priority for me was centre midfield, and we are still yet to look at centre midfield. I understand there were players that were needed replacing, like Soufal left, so we needed to get the right back in. So I thought Walker Peters was a clever bit of business, to be honest with you, because he can play both sides. And we needed a keeper. Fabianski had gone. We needed a keeper. I'd been saying we needed a new number one, but I didn't think it was one of those things that was a priority, But it seems as though we've gone and done that, and they've got the one they wanted as well. I'm not entirely dissatisfied. I just wish they'd have tackled that centre midfield area first, because for me, that has been the biggest problem for probably 2 seasons now.
I agree. I agree with you. I think we've kind of done our business the wrong way round in a way, because I even said myself before the end of the season, when it was announced that all the players who were at the end of their contracts were leaving, I kind of said, well, maybe we could have just kept Creswell and Fabianski on just to ease that pressure. Instead of trying to get replace all the players that were leaving. You can't do all. Well, you try and do all your business in one window. Some clubs got more money than sense. I mean, some of the money that's being spent by the likes of Man United and Liverpool and all that is madness. And then you look at us and we go, oh, we're broke. So I thought maybe we weren't going to be able to do all our business in one summer. And I would have been happy. And I would have been okay with keeping Fabianski, for example. But then when you get Mads Hermansen over the line and you're told that, he's only cost you 15 mil plus add-ons, that's a steal, isn't it?
Leicester wanted double that.
Yeah.
Leicester wanted double that, but no one's, but I think their financial problems are so bad, they were left with no choice. I was reading today, it's 15 million plus very hard to achieve add-ons to get it
very hard to achieve, whatever they are.
So if anything, it's actually a really good deal. And Macaulay deserves like a bit of props here as well, because it looked as though we were bringing in a keeper I'd never heard of you know, and then he's gone, no, we're not doing this. We are not having this guy. This is the player I want. And he's kind of dug his heels in and got the player that he wanted. And
What do you make of the whole John Victor fiasco?
You know what? When I initially was reading about like, oh, we've been left at the airport, and I was like, oh, it's typical Sully, and the blood started to boil a little bit because you know how my feeling on the owners still. And then I was a bit like, but it is business. This is just, I do think that sometimes, unfortunately, players get caught in the crossfire. And
I agree.
This isn't the first time it's happened. You know, it's the first time it's probably happened to us so openly, but it probably happens to other football clubs quite regularly.
Well, I've said exactly that, mate. And someone reminded me last week of the Ida Johnson deal several years back when I think he was on his way or had his medical, one or the other. And then he got stolen from right under our noses, and he ended up signing. I don't think it was for Chelsea, but because I think he went to Chelsea after another club. I can't remember, but you know, it's happened to us, and I know it's not good. I know it's not.
It doesn't look. It really doesn't look good, does it? But at the same time,
but of course, it's got the added touch of it's a David Sullivan thing. You know? And you shouldn't laugh, but you kind of do laugh when you go, oh fuck, it's West Ham.
The trouble is, when stuff like that happens, you're like, oh my god, and then you go, and then you remember, oh yeah, but David Sullivan runs this football club, you know, and it's just, and then you can't help but laugh because it's just, you know, it's just comical. Every window is comical to some extent, you know, because if you don't laugh, you cry, you know, because of how the football clubs run at most of the time. So yeah, he's a crazy one. I'd never heard of him. And then when I was reading stuff, it was like Man United wanted him a couple of years ago, and then I was like, well, he can't be that bad.
Even up to recently, apparently. I mean, when he was announced, I thought I'll do what I do. I try and do a bit of investigating, and I found the Athletic did a scout report on him only at the beginning of July. You know, saying that Man United had an interest, and I thought, okay, I'm like you. I thought, well, he's got to be hard. You know, they've got problems with their keepers. He's got to be half decent then. And I was reading about, and the thing that stuck with me is that all we've been hearing about the way Potter wants to play his football is he wants to play it from the back, you know, sort of little intricate passes from the keeper, which we know Areola can't do. And it's really interesting. On Saturday, Areola didn't do one pass short. He just passed it diagonally.
Honestly, I think he's been told. I think he's been told. He's loose. He's a loose cannon though. Like I was watching him in the last friendly in the American series. Was it Bournemouth? And he had that little moment where like we were not under pressure at all. You know, we're cruising along in the game, and just has this little moment where he kicks it for no reason. It ends up hitting the post, and then he's looking at other people like he's going to blame them, and it's like, no, this is on you, Areola. Like, what is the matter with you? Like,
yeah.
He reminds me. I don't know if you ever see that film Green Machine with Vinnie Jones in. I think it was that first one he did. He reminds me a bit of Monk, where he just goes off on these tangents. He just gets bored between the sticks.
But what's happened to him? Because I remember when he arrived, how we were all moaning that he wasn't getting into the first team. You know, if you remember that, you know, when he arrived,
well, he had that really good loan at Fulham, hadn't he? And then, you know, and then we sort of were looking at keepers, and I remember saying to you all, oh, Areola looks like a keeper we should be taking a look at. He's just had a really good loan at Fulham, and then he came in that first year, and all of us were like, when is he going to get in the team? Yeah, and then I think he was all right probably for the first 6 months when he was first team, but honestly, now still, I'll worry every time he's in goal. I'm like,
and it's such a shame because his confidence is completely, you know, gone. You know, there's no two ways about it. You know, his confidence has been knocked quite severely. You know, and you thought maybe after the season ended, maybe he'd calm down and things would be a bit okay. But like you said, was it the Man United game?
Yeah, it's just
in
the same
America.
old.
2 mistakes.
Yeah, same old. And it's like, and he was nowhere for their second goal. And it wasn't like, he weren't even lobbed really. It was just kind of away from him. And if he'd have had a dive at it, but it was but it happens too often. That's the trouble. It's almost like it's become part of his game. He's become that player that he has to get that mistake out every game. You know, I was saying for a friend of mine, he's sort of like the Antonio of goalkeepers because he is bog standard average, and then all of a sudden he'll pull off a worldy save. Like he's an incredible shot stopper, but past that,
Yeah.
he really isn't that good anymore. Like that's kind of how I feel about him now. Like his positional sense is all over the place, doesn't command the 6-yard box, gets beat from distance, gets beat at the near post, but then if it's 1-on-1 and they're through, he save it. Like it's mental. Like he's just so stupid. Like the sort of player he's become. And it doesn't surprise me that Potter's gonna got a keeper with better distribution, because that's the way he wants to play.
And I think that's going to sort of instill confidence in the team throughout. I think it's going to be good. So on the whole, I mean, there is still business to do. As you quite rightly pointed out, for now it's got to be all eyes on the midfield. And there's been some news earlier today in regards to midfield that apparently we're looking at. I mean, the one am I surprised on both? Or just one of them. Let's start with Alvarez. Apparently, Alvarez has been given a new squad number 4. And I kind of thought, well, that makes it pretty evident that he's staying. But the news is breaking out tonight that we'd be happy to listen to bids for Alvarez. Does that surprise you? It kind of surprises me.
He's one of them still that I think, unfortunately, I don't think he can physically do it in the midfield in the Premier League.
Right.
If I'm the manager, I would keep him around, but I'd use him at centre back, the same way Mexico do. Yeah, because I think in a 3 at the back system, I think he would.
The same question.
I think he would thrive in a 3 at the back system. Because it's you rely on your 2 wider centre backs pulling out, creating space, and he's got the passing ability. But the issue is just physically, I don't think he can get up and down the pitch the way you need to in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I think, the Premier League, a lot of people are saying, the Premier League is not what it was, but it's still one of the most physically taxing leagues in the world.
It is
the players
taxing,
are so fast in the Premier League. And I think that's why our midfield, it just technically and physically just isn't there. And it's why it gets unlocked every single game. And Alvarez is part of that problem, unfortunately. Like he's clearly a very good player, but I just think in the Prem he'd be a better centre back than a midfielder, just in my opinion.
Yeah, and
so I would keep him. I'd keep him for that, but then it's going to be so difficult for him to get in the team with Todibo, Kilman, a Gerd. Looked like a Gerd staying there because he's had a really good pre-season with the club. So he surprised me. That's been the biggest surprise. Is a Gerd because he's one that I've always had question marks. But I genuinely think
I'm actually really pleased about a good because I think I remember it took us 2 seasons to get him. I remember that it took us 2 years to actually finally get him. And when he arrived, the misfortune pre-season where he did his ankle or whatever it was, and he was out for quite a while, and it just never recovered since. I've seen, and the irony is, you see him in games for Morocco, and you think he is a world beater. A fantastic centre back who can not only play on the left side or natural left side, but can also play on the right as well. And I remember watching him. Was it the World Cup just before he joined us? And I thought we're getting a really decent centre back here. So I agree with you. He wouldn't shift.
It's a weird one. It's because it's almost like he's not a young player, but it's like he needed that loan because he's come back in this pre-season. He looks really confident again. And he's the one that surprised me because, like I say, I've always had question marks, but he's probably the best of our centre backs in pre-season. I genuinely think, and he's made Kilman look more comfortable. It's so strange, like Kilman in the centre now with him next to him, like it just looks a more settled, free. I'm still worried about Todibo at times because he can be incredible, and then he just has these moments, and I'm like, "What are you doing, mate?" Like
I am as well, and I know people are going to hate me for it, but I have suggested that Dinos has looked more comfortable when he's come on
in the free,
And you're absolutely right. I've always said Kilman in the middle of a back 3 would thrive. He worries me when he's been asked to play on the left of a back 3. He kind of worries me when he's played in the centre of a 2, in a 2 centre backs. And the only time I've seen him look pretty comfortable is when he's got pacey, agile centre backs either side of him. And
that's the nice thing about playing a 3 is that the central centre back usually is the one that's told to sit, and he's the one that kind of drives. It kind of drives the game from the back. And the other 2 have got to be more physical, more agile, more physical, the ability to get to the halfway line. And I think in Todibo and Gerd, you've got that because they're both quick players, especially Gerd. He's bloody rapid when he gets going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that
Well, he did an overlap in, was it the game on the weekend or was it the last game in America where he overlapped youth? And I thought, mate, where are you going? And then I realised
but
he was
that's the
actually,
nice thing about playing a three at the back system. There's still two geezers back, so the
yeah,
cover's there. And I think that's probably why the defenders looked a bit more comfortable, in my opinion.
yeah,
There's still question marks
yeah.
about the defence, but it does look a bit more comfortable.
I agree. I agree. So Alvarez is an odd one. I agree with you. Maybe if he stays, he's maybe a backup for the centre back position.
Yeah, so, but
But
sorry,
it's
yeah, to kind of finish my point, that's
yeah,
what I would do with him. But I can see why they would potentially look to sell him, because I think if there's a player there that they could probably sell, that there would be buyers, because that's the biggest problem for the club, is finding buyers for the players. But
it's what I've been saying.
I
And
think he's
yeah,
one where they would buy him. I think, and
yeah.
you'd get a nice fee as well. Like
You
maybe
get a
20, 20.
35 million
Yeah.
fee for him, and that's a good amount of money in what's left of the
And if we're led to believe, we don't have a lot of money and we reinvest in everything we get, then
yeah,
if you sold him and got two players, then it's good business, isn't it? So
that's
that's how you
good
got to look at
business.
it.
The other player, which I don't think too many fans would be too upset about, but I've always suggested it'll be difficult to sell him more for what salary that he's on, is Ward-Prowse. Now, a lot of fans have been going, well, just swap him for Fernandes and some money on top, etc., to cover his salary. But it doesn't work that way, because he's got 2 years left on his contract. So if we were to swap him, we might, we'd have to sort of, Southampton can't afford 115 grand a week.
No, so
Yeah.
from what I've read, with the trouble with JWP, I'm still really clueless how PSR works, because you look at Man United, who finished, where they finished, and bloody they're spending all this money. So it's still questionable how PSR really works. But apparently, if you believe everything you read, selling him, because of the wages, we would probably have to cover a percentage of wages, and we can't, because of PSR. He's
Yeah.
covering that percentage of the wages would affect us, essentially. So like, we'd have to find a club that would take the entire of his wages on,
This
and
is
he's on
it.
a lot of money.
He's on
You know,
115 grand a week,
yeah,
so
it's a
a
lot of money.
championship team is not going to be able. So when people say just swap him and
The trouble with Ward-Prowse is he's sort of a manager's dream. Do you know what I mean? He's a Manila midfielder who doesn't really do much, but he runs up and down. He's got a lot of energy, and he can do something from dead ball. So he's sort of a manager's dream to kind of have in the squad. But the trouble is, a squad player on 115 grand a week is mental. Like, if he
Mm.
isn't going to be playing every week. So yeah, he's a weird one for me, because he's one of those players I don't like inherently dislike and want to sell, but I can understand why.
I don't inherently dislike him, but he's just not made for what the Premier League is needed right now.
No.
And he was. I never forget. When there was awful lot of talk about maybe it was Moyes' last. Well, it was Moyes' last year of his contract, and everyone was speculating he wasn't going to be given a new contract. And then he went out and bought. He insisted on Ward-Prowse for 30 mil, and you kind of sat there and you go, that's one in the eye. That was one in the eye to Steidem more than anything else.
Ward-Prowse was one of
Like,
those signings that West Ham should have made when he was like 21, 22. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because the game then probably suited him better. Whereas I think the game's just kind of passed him by now, because what is he, like 30 years old?
yeah.
And I think the Premier League, like I say, it's come on a level, and he's not really
And
there, is
he's
he,
not.
anymore?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, there's another player that's kind of not a surprise. There's a lot of fringe players that apparently, if we can find buyers like Emerson, if there's a buyer that comes in for him, he'll go. Rodriguez, if a buyer comes in, he'll go. And then the Iron Brew Iniesta. Apparently we received a £2.2 million bid, which we turned down because we said it was derisory, and yet West Ham are willing to accept 3 mil. I mean, that's taking the piss a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, he's
2.2 to 3.3
I
million.
feel, do you know what? I feel sorry for Irvine. I don't usually feel sorry for footballers. They're paid a lot of money to do what they do, but he was like one of these. He was bought in because of this affiliation
Yeah.
lark, and then he decides,
Which
like, no,
is
I'm
kind of
not.
death, isn't it? I can't
Yeah,
remember. Yeah.
and then he decides, no, I'm not going to go back on loan. I actually want to give it a go. And do you know what? One thing I would say for him: whenever he's played,
He's been all right.
he proper gives it a go. Like,
Yeah.
and he's not terrible. Like, So I actually do feel a bit sorry for him. Like, he's actually one. Some people might think I'm mad saying this. He's one I'd just keep as a squad player.
I wouldn't say no to him
It's
because he'll
I
put the
think
effort in.
I
Yeah.
think it gets lost on people that, like, it's one thing having a really good, like, 1 to 11, but, like, say you get a few injuries, or you've got to rotate teams, especially like around the Christmas period where you're playing God knows how many games, and then you've got to rotate the team, and you need a cup team, and because there's so many competitions in this country, you need a squad. He's one to just keep around in the squad. Like, he seems to be like Fulcrook's best mate in all the videos I've watched as well. Like, the
Yeah.
weirdest combinations of people, but yeah, them two seems to be like best mates. So
Maybe they share a bottle of Iron Brew before each game or something. Who knows?
honestly, keep him around.
But no, I'm with you. I'm with you. If there's one player that you think I don't mind him staying because you never know. He's got a good shot on him. He proved that in preseason and last preseason and this preseason. And then, he's not an offensive player. He's not a corner where you go, mate, we're paying you for what? He's one of those players. And no disrespect to Cornet. I mean, but
Just never really happened, does it, for Cornet? Let's be honest. Like,
yeah, it's one thing after another. But I agree with you. I agree. I think Irving is a player that I wouldn't mind if he was still in the squad. And you're right, a good squad player, good backup. Let's talk about one player who has eventually left, and that is dear old Mikel, who is a little bit upset. Apparently, some of the comments that he made about, there's no what's the word? I can't remember what he said, but apparently he's not happy that West Ham have let him go. I mean, my feelings on Mikel Antonio. I think this probably, with the greatest of respect to him, I think this is probably 2 or 3 seasons too late for him leaving. I think he should have left some time ago.
I watched what he was saying on a podcast, and he felt it came across like he felt very hard done by, that every summer we tried to replace him. But I don't think Antonio was ever told that you're our number 9. He was just kind of a bit part striker that had to do the role while we tried to find a player. But he also came across like he wasn't paid very well. And we kept bringing in these players. And it's like, you were paid 90 grand a week. Yeah. And if you were not a physical monster, you would not have made it in the Premier League, because technically he was all over the place. He's got 50p feet. Honestly, he just still, I love a tryer, and I think that's why, like, a lot of West Ham fans do appreciate Antonio, because he's a tryer, and he did work hard, and he played all over the pitch. He did whatever West Ham asked him to do, basically, and I like that. But the podcast I listened to, he came off very bitter, a bit sour, and like he was a bit hard done by it. And it's like, you probably wouldn't have had much of a Premier League career if it weren't for West Ham. So, like, and West Ham's probably looked at the situation and gone, you've just battered your legs. Like, it's amazing that you're even playing football.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
We kind of need someone we can really rely on, and they probably don't really know where he's at. And let's be honest, he's just signed a deal with TNT. So I mean, that tells you all you need to know. And he had offers from other football clubs.
I think that's where his future lies. I think he's good for TV. I think he's got the character, he's got the personality to forge a really good career. And I just think maybe, when a player, he's come through the hard way, non-league football, and broke through late and all that sort of stuff. But I guess when you've done that, when you've actually broken through the hard way, it's harder to give up playing. And I kind of get that. I kind of get that, but I make you right. I think we've done right by him. We've stood by him for as long as we could. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that he actually played for Jamaica in those games. Was it last June, July, whatever it was? And fair play to him. He's a trier. He really wanted to convince everybody.
Still, I am genuinely amazed the geezer's playing football. My wife is friends with one of she's friends with, like, the wife of one of the EMTs that turned up at the scene, and they were like, it was a mental accident. Like, the fact that he's up walking around this soon, kicking a football about, is mental, just based on, sort of what we were told and how it looked. Like it was really bad. So yeah, like fair play to him. Like really fair play to him to be able to even kick a ball. Run around.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes some players have got to reach a point in their career, as hard as it is to let go and go, the club's got to do what's right for the club, and re-signing a 35-year-old who's just broken both his legs is not right for the football club, especially when we've got a striker in Fulkrug who spent most of the season injured last year. Well, we don't know if we're going to get a full season out of him this year again. So we're like,
we went and spent we went and bought we didn't buy him, we went and signed a 33-year-old who's just as crocked.
Oh, do you know what, mate? Like it's insane. When I tell people how much football Wilson has missed in the last 9 years, they think I'm lying, and I go, no, go and have a look.
Well, I looked at his. I didn't realise how bad his stats were.
It's so bad. I think he's something mad. Like in the last 9 years, he averages 23 games missed a season in 9 years.
No. And I was when I reported that, I surprised myself. I thought I had to recount the amount of games he missed, and I went, Jesus Christ, he's missed half a season for the last whatever number of years.
Yeah, it's crazy
on average, and it's but apparently the deal is what people have worked out. Apparently, he was on 60 grand a week at Newcastle. True or not, I don't know. He's getting 10% of that. True or not, I don't know. Which must mean he's earning. There's no way on earth that a Premier League footballer is earning 6 grand a week.
No, it's funny. I was watching some training footage. Obviously, they put it up on the YouTube channel, don't they? And I was watching some training footage, and he was smiling. And someone had commented on there saying, "That's not the smile of someone earning 6 grand a week." And I was like, "To be fair, it's not."
We're never going to know, but apparently it's all based on appearance money and goals scored and substitutions and all.
Which you know what, still might not be the worst thing, because it means every time he plays, he's really going to try and score.
Well, of course, too right, because if he's going to be told you're going to earn 20 grand for every goal you score, he's going to try and get a hat trick every fucking game.
No, you're really going to try, aren't you? Let's be honest.
I'm making up the 20 grand, by the way, but I'm whatever it is. But you're going to put your effort in, aren't you? You're gonna. Every ball that even like hits that tuft of your hair, you're going to go, that's my goal, because that's another bang in the money,
He'll be there every Monday watching the footage back, just making sure, like trying to claim everything.
But in a way, it can only be good for West Ham if he does score the goals, then fair play. That's what we want him to do. But my concern is, and I think I might have said it in a show I did, my concern is he'll have a cracking season. He'll get, where I'm going.
Yeah.
He'll have a cracking season. He'll get like 12 goals or whatever. And West Ham will go, fucking brilliant. There's a 2-year contract, 80 grand a week. First game of the new season, bang, he's out for 3 months. Yeah. That's what happened.
It's such a West Ham thing to happen.
West Ham thing to happen.
I remember when we signed Faubert. Remember we signed Faubert, like that really highly rated right back, and then he done his Achilles in the first pre-season game, didn't they? And I was just like, it's so West Ham.
It's so West Ham. All right, what about some of the youngsters? Look, by the way, people, I'm starring a few of your comments, so I will get back to them. If you ask a question, put a Q so I can see it's a question, and I'll star it and I'll get back to you. I promise. So I'm trying to put out as many comments as I can, but do put if you want to ask something or make a point, put a Q, and then I'll star it and read it out later on. What about some of our youngsters? We got to talk about Freddie Potts first. I mean, I was really pleased at the weekend that he was actually in the starting lineup. What are your thoughts? I mean, everyone's been going on about get the youngsters in, save us a lot of money in the transfer window, all that sort of stuff. My gut tells me that probably, at the beginning of the preseason, I said the only player that coming through the academy that's going to join Ollie Scholes in the senior squad is Freddie Potts. But there is another player, of course, is Callum Marshall as well, which looks like he's done enough to earn him a place in the squad. But what do you make of Potts?
It's so funny. I watched a fair bit of the Championship. He played for Portsmouth, didn't he? And he was their best player, like head and shoulders, their best player last season. Like incredible. And the amount of Portsmouth fans after the loan had finished that I see on social media saying West Ham have got, a hell of a player that's going back there. I really hope he gets first team minutes. And what I really like about Freddie is that in every interview, he's like, my dream is to play for West Ham.
Yeah.
So I'm going to really make the most of this pre-season. And I tell you something, he did not at any point look out of place in the first team. And you can say what you want about pre-season because it's all about just fitness and getting minutes, right? But when you go and play an American series and you play 3 Premier League clubs that you're going to come up against at some point during the season, and he's out there against, strong 11s, strong teams of theirs, and he doesn't look out of place, then you can start getting excited. And it's so funny because I was looking at the squad and, we'd made certain signings and I was like, who would I play if we're really picking Potter's system? Who do I play? And I genuinely start him game one. I'm not, I think he's so calm on the ball and he's so aware. The thing I really like about him is how he reads the press. So he knows when someone's tight. If he receives the ball and someone's tight, he pings it straight away. And most of the time it was sideways or backwards in those instances. But when he's afforded time, he would always turn and go forward and try and drive a pass to the wings or through the middle. I'm very, very impressed with him in pre-season. And I think if there's one youngster I really, really want to see gets like proper minutes, not just like 10 minutes off the bench, I really want to see him start a few games. I would comfortably start him game one. I really would. I thought he was that good in pre-season.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I'm really, really pleased for him because, I think he's going to become. I would really like to stick my neck out and go. Once he's really established himself, he could be as good as Declan.
Because what you've got to look at, a lot of people, a few of my mates are like, would you really start him game one? And I'm like, look at the way Potter wants to play, and then you look at the midfielders we've got. Is he going to be any worse than any else?
No.
And if he ends up going out there and he has an unbelievable game, then you're like, right, he can handle the Premier League. Whereas if he goes out there and he's not too good for the first 45, just change it at half time. But unless you give him a go, you're never going to know. And we're kind of in a position at the minute where we can give youngsters a go because we cannot have a midfield, and this is no detriment to any particular player, but we can't go into a season with Ward-Prowse and Souček, or Souček and Guido. We just cannot do it. We can't. It's not strong enough to we've got to get past that. And we've got to start giving other players a go. The system's a weird one anyway. It's so hard to work out how it really works. But
you're not like I think sometimes I look at it and I think it's 3-4-3. Other times I look at it and I go,
the way it works,
1-1.
So I've really been watching it, and the way it works different in attack and defence. So how it works is in defence, it goes to full on 5 at the back, and then he'll go 3 in midfield, and then he leaves. He has 1 there, and then he leaves 1 up top. And then when it's in attack, it's more of a 3 centre backs, and then he'll go with the wingers become almost proper wingers.
Yeah,
and then he'll have the 2 sitting, the 2 attacking mids, and the striker. So the way he does it is he separates the team basically into blocks of 5 in both attack and defence, and it interchanges from a fullback system to a defensive winger system. Like it's very like intricate. I can sort of see why it's taken the players a little while last year to get used to it, and like they needed. This is why I always said as well, like Potter needs a proper pre-season with them, really.
I don't mind the system. I know a lot of fans go, "Oh, you play 5 at the back, you're just being defensive minded, etc." But I think you're right. It changes.
But in attack, it isn't 5 at the back. That's the thing. In defence, it is. Yeah. But in attack, it actually becomes more of a 3 centre backs and a holding midfielder.
Yeah,
and the rest of them push on.
And I don't mind that. I think that shows what Potter's trying to do. But now, I guess the big question is has he got the right players to be effective? But I'm glad for Potts, and I'm glad for Marshall as well. I think he's been the surprise package of this preseason, and the fact that Potter has talked about him as being part of the senior squad, I think that's great for the lad. I think he you probably already know, but he's had a couple of loan spells where season before last, he went out to Wolves just as they had a short, not Wolves, West Brom, just as they lost all their strikers, and as he arrived, all their strikers started to come back, and he got very little game time.
Yeah.
But then last season, out on loan at Huddersfield, all right, it's League One, and I genuinely thought League One, that means he's going to be loaned out to a Championship team this coming season in order to prove himself. But well done to him, to Marshall for having leapfrogged that.
They always say the good thing about the English football pyramid is that the levels are there for the youngsters to learn. Like, and you can take that step, like Potts. Was it Charlton in League One, and then he went Portsmouth in the Championship. So he's kind of used both those levels to kind of get to where he is.
And Wycombe Wanderers, and then
Wycombe, that was it. Yeah, Wycombe. Yeah. So we loaned quite a few players to Wycombe, didn't we?
Yeah, we've
done it over the years.
We have.
But it's just about using those levels, and then just you got to take your opportunity. It's a prime time for youngsters to really, really stake a claim, because the first 11 and the bench isn't strong.
Yeah,
you can get in there if you really show up. You can get in there. That's how I look at it at the moment.
I agree. What about some of the senior members of the team? Let's start with the laughing German. He's looking different, isn't he?
Well, it was 4 in 6, wasn't it? Something like that.
4 in 6. I hope he gets 4 in 6 in the next 6 league games.
I tell you something. He just comes off as such a character.
Yeah,
like he really comes off so. I think it gets lost on us fans sometimes that the football on the pitch is obviously very important, but there has to be that sense of camaraderie, and the team has to be together. And it wasn't like that last year. It was clearly a camp of players that weren't happy. There was a lot of stuff going on, but from all the stuff I've seen, they seem very together. And he always seems to be at the centre of all the jokes and the laughing, and the playing silly tricks on the training ground and stuff. And I think if he scores goals this season, still he's one of those who will get like that cult hero status, because he's one of those. He's one of those types of characters that, if he starts scoring goals on the pitch and working hard and stuff, the fans will take to him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to ask the question, and I know those who were fans of this player, and Spurs fans as well, will go sour grapes. When he came out and did the rant last season, he went, players. It's interesting how a lot of fans misinterpreted what he said when he came out on TV and he had a rant. And he goes, players aren't doing what the coach tells them. And then somehow a lot of fans turn that on Potter and goes, oh, Potter, look, Fulkrug's against Potter. Fulkrug was never ranted at Potter. He was ranting at players not doing what Potter was telling them to do.
Yeah.
Do you think Mr. Kudus was one of them?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It was Fulkrug having a go at someone like Kudus.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised, mate. The trouble is, if we say anything about Kudus now, everyone's like, "Oh, sour grapes." But
that's exactly why I am. Yeah.
We all read and hear things, and apparently he wasn't one of the easiest characters to deal with in the camp. Thought he was bigger and better than he is. But it's funny, isn't it? He's been at Spurs like a month or whatever. They've already turned on him, and they're going to buy Savino from bloody Man City, aren't they? They've already had enough. Like, they spent 55 million on him. They've let him play 3 games, and they've gone, yeah, that ain't going to work.
It makes me smile 54.5 million times.
Do you know what it was, Stel, with him? He had a very, very good first season, but then when I watched his head kind of go last year, and the work rate weren't there, and he was one of those players who was just running around like he didn't care.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I remember saying to myself at the end of the season, like, if a good offer comes in for him, he'd be the first one I sold just to make a bit of money. And the only thing I didn't like is where he went. I didn't care that he'd been sold. I just didn't like where he went. But then I'm looking at it now, and I'm just like, we've probably had their pants down. 54 million plus.
Do you know?
Whatever it is.
I think he's gonna do some good stuff for them. But as I've said, and it ain't sour grapes, it really isn't, because I always said when we signed him and Alvarez, I said 2 seasons and that's it. He's going. And I agree with you. Where he went is another matter.
Yeah.
But I said 2 seasons and that's it. And we're going to get, decent money for him and let him move on. But I was kind of protecting him a lot last season. I was kind of saying, look, he's being played out of position. He doesn't like playing out on the left, etc. And there were some games, I remember being at some games, and when you're down the front and watching him and you go, he's putting the effort in. And there were other times where he'd get the ball, he'd do all the hard work, and then he'll stop and then just like nonchalantly pass it back. It's like, why have you just done that?
Like the first year, if you remember the first season we had him, he was always taking on the fullback.
Yeah,
always. He just wanted to run them up the line. The amount of corners we got because of him, I remember. It's just forcing them up the byline and whatever. And then that just stopped last year. And obviously, I know coaches and managers, and they want you to play game differently. But he just got to a point where it just felt like that was what he wanted to do. He'd run it up the line a bit, stop, pass it back, and then it had never come to anything. It's very like stagnant, and he just didn't seem to be. He just didn't work that hard. But again, he was one of them players I knew when we signed him. Still, it was like, don't get too comfortable. It's a bit like when they say don't fall in love with a lone player. It was I already did that. Like, don't fall in love with Kudus because he'll go in 2 or 3 years' time, and I think he went sooner than I thought he would, but I think the club looked at him.
I think he went at the right time. I knew it would be. We all believed that last year it would have been Paqueta, and this year it would have been Kudus. And had we sold Paqueta last year rather than the whole thing hanging over his head, was it last year or the year before? But had we sold him, there would have been more investment made in the squad, etc. So God knows what we would have got. But I always thought it'd be this year. I always thought he'd go. And I know a lot of fans were really unhappy about him going for 54 million. But let's be honest with you.
But you've got to base it on the season he's just had. I'm amazed we got that. Exactly. You've always got to base it on the season they've just had. And I'm amazed we got that much for him, considering the season.
And you could look at some of the players who have been sold for that sort of money. He's in good company in terms of the 50 around the 50 odd million mark. There's some very good players.
I'm not being funny. Newcastle have just bought Elanga for 55 million. If you go and look at the numbers and the seasons them 2 players have just had, we've done well to get that sort of money for Kudus. So that's how you got to look at it.
Yeah, I agree. Other players. There's one player who we've not seen yet because of injury, but I've got my fingers crossed for him. And I can't wait for him to come back. And
it's going to be like having a new signing.
That's what I'm kind of, hoping. I mean, do you have hopes for him? Do you think he can really give us the kind of season that we were kind of hoping for last?
I hope so. I really want him to make it at West Ham. I was really excited about him when we signed him. He was, off the back of that season he had for Leeds and stuff. Like he's clearly a very good player in there. And it was a few flashes of it before he, picked up that injury. And I could see him playing on the left-hand side, of that kind of 2 that sit behind the striker.
Yeah.
So I really hope. I just really hope he comes back fit and ready, and just we get a proper season out of him. I really hope he can avoid like the injuries. It's such a West Ham thing, though, isn't it? Barely any injuries in that year at Leeds. Tears the Championship to pieces, and then comes to us, picks up a bad injury, and he's done for the season.
Because what you've just said, the position you've just mentioned, I can envisage him. Fulkrug up front, Somerville and Bowen either side of him, and then you've got your wing backs overlapping. That's quite mouthwatering. It's quite mouthwatering, but then you need a solid midfield to make sure that works.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I've kind of said all window to kind of save money in other areas and really just go out there and get 2 really good centre mids. Did we need to spend 15 million on a keeper? Maybe not. But then this keeper is highly rated, and I've got a mate that's a Leicester fan, and he was like, "That is a steal that you've got him for." Like he's 25. He'll be
he's our keeper for the next 9-10 years.
Well, he'll be our youngest keeper, won't he? If he starts since Bywater.
Wow.
So yeah.
I think I get it. I get why we've gone out and bought a player like that, but then I'm also looking forward to someone like Somerville coming back. But you're absolutely right. You know, we paid quite a lot of money, or we paid decent money for a keeper. We've now got to do it in midfield.
You've
And there's
got to.
one player in midfield that can do it, but not consistently enough, and that's Mr. Paqueta.
Yeah.
Now, all the rumours about him going to Newcastle, and apparently he's told his agent to get on the move and get him out of West Ham is a load of baloney, as we thought it would be. You know, he's now got that cloud lifted away from him with all the FA charges, etc., or the worst of them. What are you hoping for? Is he going to become our talisman this season? He should do, shouldn't he?
He's a weird one for me, Paqueta, because it's like he's box office, but then he is the most frustrating player at times. You know, I gave him. I didn't give him any stick last year at all. I kind of gave him free rein last year because of the shit the FA put him through. The way the FA have conducted themselves, by the way, is disgusting. You know, like, guilty or not, don't leave someone hanging, you know, with all this and letting them play. He could get suspended. You know, the fact that, like, when it first happened, it was all like, yeah, well, if he'd essentially been told, like, if you're found guilty, then that's your career done. Like, you'll never play football again. Imagine having that hanging over you for the entirety of the season, you know, and you could clearly see it as well during the season. Every time he picked up a yellow, you could almost see him like second guessing, like, oh, should I have done that? Because he's going to be questioned, isn't he?
Yeah.
There was that one game in particular where he fouled someone and he knew he was going to be suspended the next game, and he was physically crying in the middle of the pitch. And I was just like, this geezer's going through more than we all know. And you could sort of see it. The old Paqueta come back in pre-season a little bit once the charges had come out that he hasn't got to worry anymore. But it's a hard one though. It's like, where do you play him? Because he ain't going to play behind a striker, so he's going to have to play as one of the two, isn't he, in midfield?
This is the thing. You see, he's a conundrum because you play him alongside the holding midfielder, you know, so he plays deep, you know, to spray the ball around. And he's fantastic, but he's a vulnerability because that's where he loses the ball, you know. And when you lose the ball deep in your own half, that's when the counter attack can lead to a goal. And it's happened. He's done it, hasn't he? You know, he's lost the ball several times in the time that he's been at West Ham, and it's been in a deep position, and we've suffered for it. And yet, you play him further up front. He can do that number 10 role, but he doesn't seem to fancy that. I don't know. I don't know if that's...
wherever he's played before, whenever I've watched him, even for Brazil, he much prefers playing that number 8 role.
Yeah,
more deeper in the midfield, so he can spray the passes. Look at the pass for the winning goal in the European final. He was deep, and he put that ball through for Bowen. He just seems to he can
spot it, can't he?
Yeah, like he's got more of a footballing brain when he's deeper. When he's further up the pitch, it's almost like he just doesn't fancy it, you know. And it's weird as well because he's someone who can clearly shoot, clearly pass. You know, he can kind of do it all, but. Yeah, I do think he's more effective deeper, but we're going to have that conundrum where if you do bring in two really good midfielders, you're going to have that.
Where does he fit in?
And if you do want to play him higher up, then it's like Somerville's got to sit on the bench. You're going to have these situations. They're good situations.
They are good.
Get the right players.
Yeah. Because to me, a perfect midfield, even though I've said 5 minutes ago that I want to see Somerville play off the, you know, just off the behind the forward, is to have a solid defensive midfielder, a Potts or whoever it may be, a Paqueta who's got that skill, that passing skill, etc., and someone who's running in between the two of them, like helping out Potts out in defense, and the next minute he's helping out, you know, the attacking players, etc. Someone who's got that engine. And Paqueta, having someone like that would thrive in that. I'll never forget, mate, when we had Souček and Rice in their peak, when it was Rice who was doing that, you know, holding back, and it was Souček who was doing the running and scoring getting the glory, scoring all the goals. But that kind of thing works. And
It is crazy as well because I get so much stick when I say this, but like our midfield was incredible when it was like that. And then the next season, Rice decided he
It was
wanted to score more
switched.
goals, and it all went
Yeah.
to shit.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The balance has got to be so right in football teams. Like I don't think people understand just that you've got to get it right. You know, everyone's got to have their place. I to this day I really don't know where Paqueta's place is in the team. You know, because
Yeah.
if you are going to play him with a holder, you're probably going to want to play a free in midfield. But then because of the way
To
Potter
cover for
plays,
him. Yeah.
yeah. But then because of the way Potter plays, you'd be playing two strikers.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Bowen, I just don't think Bowen works as a striker.
You see, I know a lot of people say the same thing, but
All of
and
the
I know
stuff that
stats.
he's good at is taken away when you put him up front.
Yeah, now I did a show on this, and I know people will go, well, you can skew stats in any way you want, but I looked at his stats when he plays up front and his stats when he plays out wide. They're not too dissimilar.
Oh yeah,
You
I'm
know,
sure from a statistical sort of viewpoint, they're not. But I think that with Bowen, because he's a grafter and he's hard work, and when you play him wide, he drives the team up the pitch. When
yeah,
you're a striker, that's not their
y- y-
job.
yeah.
Then
I get that. I get
you
that.
lose
Yeah,
that. You lose that. You lose a player that's got the ability to drive a team up the pitch. You know,
yeah,
like Bowen will often pick it up on the halfway line and run sort of like 10, 15 yards, force the throw in, and then the team all pushes up. You know, so
yeah,
you've moved the team up a bit. He does it a lot, and I think when you play him up front, you lose that. You know, he looks
yeah,
like he's actually
I
got
see that.
he's
Yeah,
got a good partnership with Fulkrug, to be fair. So you know, he's proved that he can do it, but I just think you lose a little bit of what he's
yeah.
good
When
at
he's
when he's
playing
up
that
there.
much further up
Yeah.
front. I haven't got a pick of him, but we've got to mention Luis Guilherme. There was a lot of talk about the behind closed door friendly against Lille on Sunday, where a number of fringe players, Alvarez played in that, and a number of other fringe players, a number of players who didn't play, who didn't play in the game on Saturday, played on the Sunday, and apparently man of the match was Guilherme.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I got a text off of Ant maybe. I can't remember who it was, but they were like, I did because I wasn't aware of this friendly happening. And then he was saying like Guillermo was man of the match. He was incredible apparently. But he had
yeah,
was it against Everton? Was it
he
Everton
had a
when he
good
came
game in
on?
one
Yeah, and
or
he
two
played.
of the
He actually played.
pre-season. Yeah,
He came on for Malik, didn't he? And he played left wing back, and he was
yeah,
incredible. I was like, okay, well, you can do that role. You've shown us you could fill in. You know, if we kind of needed someone there, and then I could see him playing behind the striker. He's you know what it is with him. He's quick. I think
yeah.
that's why he stands out because we haven't got many quick
No,
players.
we haven't got
So
many quick
then,
players.
you know, you get someone like that, and it's like, cool, he's rapid.
The irony is we got a lot of quick players out wide. Diouf is quite quick. Wan-Bissaka's got a bit of, he's
Yeah, he's
lanky, isn't he? So
energy
he's
in
got
it.
a bit of pace. All these players that we got, Somerville's quick. Bowen, he's not slow, but they're all wide players.
Yeah.
We don't have that in the middle, have
Yeah,
we?
that's what we need. You give
Yeah.
me one. You give me one in the midfield that could do the same, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. Players coming in or players that are rumored to be coming in. There's been an awful lot of talk about this young lad, 18 years of age, Met striker, Idrissa Gueye. I heard earlier tonight that despite all the rumours, there's no way we're looking at signing him because we're now focused on midfielders. With Wilson and Fulkrug and Marshall, would you like another striker, or
I
do
don't
we
think you
just
need one.
right?
If Marshall wasn't going to be part of it, then you might.
Yeah,
And you do have to look at Wilson and Fulkrug's injury record the last couple of years as well, I guess. But I don't know. It really depends on what Potter's settled on, doesn't it? If he's settled on Fulkrug's my starting striker, we've got Wilson and Marshall as options. Do you need another one? Especially if you're going to go with one up top.
yeah,
Which he will. In most games, he's going to go one up top. So,
and this is it. If Fulkrug and Wilson both injured, then you as much as people don't like it, you do have Bowen.
yeah.
You have Cornet. If we don't sell him,
Paqueta's done it.
Paqueta's
He's
done it.
not the
So there
best, but
are.
he's done it though, isn't he? You know,
They're not ideal options, and please, people, and I know there's a few people that just like, I know they just want an out and out, and I get it. When you look at Chelsea and Liverpool and Arsenal and all these others signing, how many strikers have Liverpool signed? Is it 2 or 3? And they're still trying to get what's his name from Newcastle.
yeah, they signed Etikite, hadn't they?
Yeah,
Who was one we got linked with, funny enough, a few years
yeah.
ago.
And Moyes said he weren't good.
Yeah, God, the amount of times that's happened. Yeah, they've bought him, and then they're looking at Isaac, aren't they? They've broken the transfer window, Liverpool, this year anyway. Jesus Christ.
When does FFP come in, mate? When does PSR come in?
I don't know, mate. They didn't spend any money though, did they, last year?
Right.
Yeah,
they only bought one player, didn't they?
Yeah, they barely spent money last year, and then they've just won the league, so prize money, all this sort of stuff outweighs it. But still, to go and throw 400 million at the window is pretty insane.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's taking the fucking piss, really.
I've always said they put PSR, FP, whatever you want to call it. They just put it in place to protect those 6 clubs. Yeah, because you look at someone like Newcastle, they've become a bit of a running joke, haven't they, this year? Because everyone they get linked to goes elsewhere. But Newcastle arguably have the richest owners in the league. They won a cup last year, went quite well in the Premier League, and they can't spend any money.
Yeah.
Aston Villa, another one, done really well in the league, had a really good deep Champions League run, the quarterfinals of Champions League, but apparently Aston Villa's wage bill is what's stopping them from buying players. That's why they've got to sell to get some in. But I just think it's a tool that protects a particular bunch of clubs.
It feels that way, doesn't it?
Especially when you look at those clubs spending the amount of money they're spending. Like Arsenal, again, have just gone and thrown money at the transfer window. Every season, I feel like they spend 250 every transfer window. You can't tell me that they're making that much money every year
to cover it
with the wages. I know their fan bases are much bigger. They've got global fan bases, but are they that big? I like Chelsea, find a new loophole every window, and you can't knock them. You can't knock them for doing it, because
if they can get away with it, they'll do it.
If loopholes are there to be used, then go about it. But Chelsea are they've what was it? Someone put the other day they made their 49th signing in 4 windows or something. And they've spent nearly 3 billion quid. And then someone was saying Man United's their 49 signings ago for Man United was Herrera, who's I don't even think he plays anymore. Just crazy. It's just the way that certain clubs seem to get away with it with PSR.
Does it wind you up then when we are, and rightly so, fans are going, so we moved stadium in order to save money, in order to compete with the top end of the league, etc. And then 10 years down the line, it's our 10th anniversary at the stadium. 10 years down the line, we're broke. We've got to sell this family silver before we buy.
But the trouble is, it shouldn't really surprise anyone. This, they've got a track record. Did it at Birmingham,
Yeah.
Didn't exactly leave Birmingham in the best of states either, did they? So I say it every season, but Sully's just happy to collect his Premier League money. If he finishes 17th, he don't care. He just wants to collect his Premier League money. He just wants to say that he owns a Premier League club. And
it's such a shame, Dan, because it was only 2 years ago we were winning in Prague, and everything looked to be it was beginning to finally go the right way.
But in true West Ham fashion, we just didn't use it as a springboard. We never capitalise on how good we have it. Like Bilic. But the last season at the Bowen, we did not capitalise on what a great season that was.
Yeah,
we went into the new stadium, and all these players got signed that were bog standard players, and we were, and the trouble is as well, we were all going into that new stadium having been promised, we got to move so we could finish top 4. So we were all expecting really good players, and then it's just all these really average players joined, and then we lose Payet as well, and it's oh my god, what is happening? We never capitalise on on a good
Yeah,
situation.
and we did it again.
Yeah.
Winning in Prague, we did it again, didn't we? We just didn't. You're absolutely correct. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the next midfielder we're going for, and thank God we're actually finally looking at midfielders. But the next midfielder is there's a lot of noise about Matthias Fernandes, and apparently a bid's about to go in. But my understanding is that this will be a difficult one to get over the line. Not because we can't afford him or anything like that. They're asking for 30 million, but it's more about the agent who manages him, which is George Mendes. And my understanding is that George Mendes will only do business with clubs who are affiliated to George Mendes. And this is the shame. If this really is the situation, he's a bit like the Spanish version of Will Sorthouse. He'll only do, but an awful lot fucking better than Will Sorthouse. But he'll do deals where what Sorthouse has got certain clubs that he will always do deals with, like West Ham, and apparently Mendes is apparently much the same. There are favoured clubs that he will do business with, and of course we're not one of them. I wonder if Mendes in Spanish it translates to Sorthouse, maybe.
Maybe.
Or the other way around.
It's a weird one. This it is a weird one because it's one I've kind of kept my eye on because he's a player that I think would do. I think he would be very good for us in the midfield, and so it was one of them that I'd mentioned to Cess, who me and Cess were talking about players that we would hope the club were looking at, and Cess is a bit like me. He watches a lot of French football, a lot of football all over Europe and whatever. But one we both agreed on was Fernandes at Southampton and how good he was in that bad team, basically. He was a really standout figure, proper box-to-box player. He's only young. He's only like 21. And it's just one of those that it made sense. And then I remember reading early on in the window that like he was available, but he favoured a move to Europe. Like he outside of the UK, and then the fee was 13 million. And then I thought, well, if the fee's only 30 million, just have a go. And then you read the agent who he is, and then the more clubs that became interested, the price slowly went up, and now we're sitting at 30 million. And it's weird that West Ham's waited until it's 30 million to then declare their interest, because usually West Ham are right in there at the beginning. Telling everybody what they're going to do, but on this one we've waited until he's at his most expensive to say.
It is odd. It is odd. I mean, we've been linked to. I've lost count of how many central midfielders we've been linked to, especially in the early part of the transfer window. There's players like Mario Stroikens of, I think Anderlecht. I think he is. Onyedika, Rafael Onyedika from Club Bruges, and you read about these guys and you go, they seem to be the best.
Well, Onyedika was the one that was like, it seemed like it was done, and then all the ITKs come out like a week later and go, well, I don't know where that's come from. The issue we have now is that we live in the social media generation. It's so easy, and like me and my mate Luke have joked about this. It's so easy that anybody could set up an account on Twitter and just chat shit. And if you're convincing enough, people will buy it. Yeah, like that's the trouble. We live in this generation now where just so much stuff gets spouted online that you don't really know what's real, what's not. It's one of the reasons I've avoided social media this summer.
The one thing I've done differently this summer is I've done transfer shows, but I've not done transfer shows. If you know what I mean, I've kind of looked at
you've not talked about like every person that
every single person where I tended to do that before, and I've gone, all right, what I'm going to talk about is the ones that seem a lot more realistic. And if some of them are not realistic, I'll just say outright, my gut tells me this is not happening. Because I talked about Fernandes early weeks ago. And I don't know what it is. It's interesting that you and Cess have said, really good player, etc. Because I remember doing a preview of the Southampton game when we were going to play them last season. And I highlighted Fernandes and I said, look, watch out for him. And then I watched the game and I went, well, what was I looking at? You know, he didn't impress.
Mm.
You know, and so I thought, well, he's not going to be the sort of player that's going to be that, you know, that kind of player that for us. Because one player that I got stuck with, and it's interesting, there's an American viewer who watched the show I did this morning that I talked about in some depth, and that was Yunus Musa of AC Milan. You know, Arsenal youth product, went to I think he went to Valencia and then AC Milan. And I said, you know, he sounds like the kind of player that we should have. And this American viewer went, you don't really want him. He's tough, he's solid, you know, he's fast, you know, but when it comes to creating chances and scoring goals, he's got nothing, you know. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. So, and I've had the same mentality about Fernandes. I went, I think he's all right. But it's interesting that you and Seth and several others have gone, he's the real deal. You know,
Yeah, he's a
the
name
sort
that's
of
been
player.
mentioned a lot, like in the fan base as well, in general. Like obviously, me and Seth have, spoken openly quite a lot during the transfer window about sort of players that we should be looking at, and like there's so many names as well still that we've mentioned that are like that we've looked at and gone like, oh, maybe that's like a realistic option if we got the money, and then they've gone elsewhere. You know, like the lad that's just gone to Villa. There was someone else who's just gone somewhere, and we were like, oh, they're two players we should have looked at. It's just the trouble is you never really know what's going on there at the club
Yeah,
behind closed doors. How
yeah,
much money is there really? What is a realistic option from a financial standpoint for the football club at the moment? So, you know, we just got to bring the average age of the team down, and we need to just get some energy in that midfield. And he was one that initially, because it was like 13 million, I was like, oh God, we should be all over that. But at 30 million, I'm a bit like, oh, that's a lot of money.
yeah. It's a lot, and I don't think, with the greatest of respect to Southampton, I'm not sure they'll achieve that. You know, I'm not sure they'll get the 30 million for him. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, obviously the obvious, you know, the antithesis of Fernandes is obviously the freebie. Now, interestingly, he's a Will Salthouse client.
This lad here, Josh Brownhill, will happen right at the end of the window if he's still available. That's what I reckon will happen.
Yeah.
I reckon if they manage to I don't think we'll find someone to buy Guido, but I think they'll pay him off and tear up his contract because he's only got a year left anyway.
Yeah.
And I just think they'll want to get the wages off the book. They know he can't do it, but I just can't see anyone buying him. So I reckon they'll rip that contract up and then they'll bring in Brownhill was coming back
to Brownhill. Would you, because he's free and because he's a Salthouse client, and by the way, it's Fly Fox. Thank you, mate. You're the one that talked about Musa. So I appreciate that in the chat. If he's free, would he be a better option than nothing? Has he got the energy? Has he got the sort of energy, the drive?
It's another one of them, and it's another one a bit
midfield.
like Irving, where it's like you're going to need squad players. Like if we bought Brownhill in with it being he's a squad player, and that's what he is from the off, then he's surely it's better to have him in the team than is Guido. That's how I kind of look at it. Do you know what I mean? Because Brownhill has at least played Premier League football and looked okay at Premier League level. At no point have I ever watched Guido and thought, oh yeah, he's a good player. Like at no point. He's just atrocious. Yeah, and this
not
isn't
made
me
for the Premier League.
Yeah, and this isn't me saying like Brownhill's a great player and I want him, but like as a squad option on a free, like if we went and actually got like another midfielder that was like a starter and was very, very good, I don't know if I'd be
as a squad option. Yeah, but this is it, isn't it? We've already got quite a lot of squad options.
Yeah,
you know, he's trying to get that starter. There's another one that we keep being, and I don't think this will happen for many, many reasons. What's your take on Jacob Ramsey?
It's steer clear.
Yeah,
he's a winger for a start. He's a winger.
Yeah,
and he's a really good player on his day.
Yeah,
but he is going to want a lot of money, and he's missed a lot of football through injury in the last 3 years. So it's another one. It's like, do you want to take that risk? I think he missed like 11 games last season, and I think the season before it was like 28 games.
Yeah.
Like, and he's only young, but he's going to cost a lot of money in wages. Like, he just is. He's going to want a pay rise on whatever he's earning at Aston Villa, and he's probably going to want guarantees that he's going to play more football if he comes
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah.
That he's not getting at
Because
Villa.
he'll see Aston Villa as a more lucrative prospect,
And that's that. And
rather
that's not
than,
me saying he's a bad player, because he's not. But I just don't think we need wingers.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, and I
I'm
think
with
he
you.
is more of a winger than he is, a
And
midfielder.
and talking of wingers, because there's a lot of noise about this young lad as well, Ben Doak. He had an excellent season at Middlesbrough, and yeah, great, but another winger. And he's not the sort of player. I did a show this morning, and I talked about: do you go in central midfield? Do you go for experience, or do you go for youth? And that's why I was umming and ahhing about Fernandes as well. Yeah, he's had one season in the Premier League, but and I'm going to talk about another player in a minute. But someone like Ben Doak,
But Ben Doak is the ideal player you sign if Bowen was sold.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, because it's
yeah,
like one of those. It's kind of like he's at a bit similar age to Bowen probably was when he joined. Yeah,
yeah,
Ben
yeah.
Doak's a really, really good footballer, and the sky's the limit for him as well if he really carries on the trajectory he's going. Liverpool really, really like him, but I think Liverpool are kind of in that position where they've spent a lot of money, so it's like if we can get good money
How's he
for
going to
him,
get in the team? Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think it was one of those. If you lost a Bowen or you lost like a key winger, then he would probably be that sort of player you'd go and buy.
yeah, yeah. Agreed. So the other player, and really, I mean, I can go on with a whole list of players, but the other player that's right at the forefront of my mind, and when I talk about experience, bringing in experience, what do you make of if we went for someone like Douglas Luiz? Would he even come to West Ham first of
Oh,
all? But isn't he the sort of player that will make a massive difference to this West Ham
he's
team in the
he's
middle of the
he's
park?
a he's a good player.
Yeah,
He always stood out when he was at Villa. He always stood out in that midfield.
yeah,
Always stood out. And then he got that move, and it was one of those, wasn't it? He just had that incredible season for him, and I think they'd qualified for Champions League maybe, and then because of PSR, they were forced to sell him, and so
yeah.
he had to go to because they just had to get his wages off the book, and
That's
so
right.
they sold him to Juve, and he's never really been given a go, like a proper go of it at Juve. I don't know if that says anything about him as a player, or the team they've got now.
I think he's had a few injuries, nothing serious, but he's and so once he's gotten going, he then picks up a little knock and then he loses his
Yeah, do you
place.
know what? I've just seen that comment, and Douglas Luiz is the perfect player to come in if you're not quite convinced that Potts can play every week. And
Right.
plus, having someone who's that good at doing that role, Potts would learn so much from him. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
Douglas Luiz is one of those that I think on loan with the option to buy is a no-brainer of a signing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
I look at it. If you think it's too much of a risk to go out there and buy him and bring him in, if you think his wages is going to be too high or whatever, get him to pay a percentage of the wages, bring him in with an option. And if he has a ridiculously good season and you've negotiated a reasonable option, then you've got yourself a steal, haven't you? So
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's what I would
I
do.
agree.
He's one we should look at though. I think he
Yeah.
instantly improves the midfield.
Yeah. I totally agree. People, I've starred a few comments, so I'm going to get back to them in a minute. If you want to make a comment or ask anything, put a Q at the start and then say your comment, and I'll star it, and then I'll read it out later. Season ahead, Sunderland away. I mean, why make it easy for us in the first game of the season? A team that's going to be chomping. They're going to be at it on Saturday.
Yeah, and they've just bid 60 million quid for a Pender.
Have they?
Yeah. They're going all in, mate. Yeah, just before I was coming on, I was just checking, and they'd just bid 60 million plus 5 million in add-ons for a Pender.
Fucking hell. I'm not worried about him. I'm more worried about Arthur.
Yeah, you know for where we'll come back and have a ridiculously good game for
He
him.
will have a mad game, won't he? He'll set up a goal. He'll score a goal. He'll come off his arse. I don't know. He'll kick a ball that's going, that's across and go in, like Chelsea and all that. I mean, well, how do you see this season panning? I mean, all right, we haven't finished our business. Potter didn't get what he wanted because Potter said, I want all the players in before preseason. you know, and Bederman,
Well,
etc. He hasn't
now
got his
he's
head.
he's learnt the hard way how Sullivan works.
Yeah, yeah, he has
Sullivan
learned the
never
hard way.
gets the team complete before,
No.
first ball's kicked. So, you know,
And we knew this, and now he knows it. And I do think we'll get a few more. I think at this, as it stands, if no player leaves, we've got one more player coming in, midfielder. But as I said, for those of you who've joined late, you know, the news tonight is that we're open to offers on a number of players, which includes Alvarez and James Ward-Prowse, which has surprised me. But Alvarez and James Ward-Prowse apparently are players that we will be looking at selling, in addition to a number of fringe players like Rodriguez. And I don't want to call Emerson a fringe player. I like Emerson, but, you know, he's out. You know, he won't be part of the squad, or certainly won't play if he's kept. But other players, you know, like Irving may go and so on. So if we do sell if we sell key players, and I know people don't like me here, don't want to hear that James Ward-Prowse is a key player, but as it stands, he is one of the key options.
yeah.
So unless we sell, we've only got one more player coming in. Do you think we're going to do more business than that, or is it?
I think it's inevitable that at least 2 or 3 of these exit.
Yeah,
because he's Potter's. The one thing I will say that I do quite like about Potter is he's looked at the squad and he knows who he likes, and
yeah,
he knows. And I don't even think it's that he dislikes players. I just think he's looked at a few of them and gone, they don't work. And I
yeah.
even think, it might be controversial to say this, but I even think he spent enough time with Souček now to go, I really, really like Souček, and I actually wanted him at one point, but I don't think he can technically do it for me.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah.
that Souček didn't start too many of the games in preseason tells me
Yeah.
what he
He
needs
has.
to know.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of ship sailed. And I've been saying to a few of my mates, like, I think if the right offer came in, I think he'd sell Souček.
I think you're right.
Controversially,
I think he would. I think he's quite likely to, if he's offered decent money for most of our central midfielders, I think he'd be happy to take it. You know,
and don't get me wrong, like Souček will go down cult hero status, like
yeah,
genuinely really gives a shit about the football club.
yeah,
And whether you like him or you don't, whenever he put the West Ham shirt on, he's always give 110%.
yeah.
You
I
know,
agree.
he's scored
I
some
agree.
really important goals for the club. I just think where Souček's lacking is he just doesn't have the technical ability to get up and down the football pitch. And
Yeah.
like he always looks like a giraffe with roller skates on when the ball is at feet. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like he just looks a bit lost. Whereas
Isn't it ironic that,
he's a box
you know,
monster. If you
yeah,
have him defending a corner, he's probably the first one to get his head on it and take 10 stitches in the forehead. Whereas if you got him in the attacking end, he's probably going to be the one that sticks it in the back of the net. But
this
it's just
is it.
that bit that he's.
But it's ironic down our spine, so to speak. We've got a calamitous keeper now. We had Antonio, who was always falling over the ball, and we had Souček, as you've just mentioned. Like a giraffe on ice.
Yeah, it's just
on skates. It's weird that you could actually get away with so many players who are only half good at the game. I don't mean that in a deceitful way. I like Souček. I'm with you. He's scored so many vital goals for us. But I agree with you. I think we've got an offer for him. Someone asked Souček to Everton. Moyes is showing his true colours. Moyes could have put a bid in for Souček right at the start of the window. Moyes could have put a bid in for James Ward-Prowse right at the start of the window.
instead.
Yeah, exactly. What do you hope for this season? Given that we're likely to, I think we will address our midfield. I'm confident that we will. And let's say, for argument's sake, we don't sell anyone we don't sell an Alvarez, or we don't sell a centre back, and we don't sell a Ward-Prowse. So we add to what we've got a central midfielder, good central midfielder. What do you expect the season to hold for us?
They're low, but I think that's just because of the season we've just come off of more than it is the new season. I'm a little bit worried because I'm looking at what other clubs have done in the window, but then I look at us and then I look at what Brentford have lost and I look at what Bournemouth have lost.
Yeah.
They've lost some really key players.
They've lost some really good players.
Yeah. Do you know, and like I'd actually say that like there's a few clubs that are actually sort of as bad as we are. You know, Sunderland are doing some really good business as a newly promoted team. I think that sort of Burnley and Leeds are kind of doing what I expected them to do. And it might seem weird for me to be sticking them in the bracket with us, but like we're coming off of a really bad season, so I can't go like, well, you know, this team and that team. Aston Villa, for instance, Aston Villa are doing it. We're not on Villa's level, unfortunately. We just are off the back of
We
last
should be,
season.
but we're not.
Yeah, you know, I think a good season for us would be anywhere from 9th to 12th. I genuinely think that's probably where we're at.
Yeah.
If Potter gets the team going, keep the team fit, and he brings in maybe one or two in midfield and a couple go, I'd say anywhere from there, sort of 8th to 12th. That's what I'd expect.
I'm with you. I'm not expecting us to compete for a European place.
And I will say as well, if we finish 8th, I will consider that a superb season.
I would too. And I know that sounds like we're being a bit defeatist, but I would too. Do you think we're going to get dragged into a relegation battle?
I think you've got to give it the first 10 games.
Yeah.
I had to say to a few people, and it was hard work under Potter towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
But I did say to a lot of people, you do have to understand he's come in mid-season. These ain't his players. The board we're never going to back him in January, you know. So he kind of just had to get by with what he's got. And you can kind of see that he's trying to fix some of the problems in this window, but he just hasn't got the support to do it. Yeah, you can see the players that he sort of wants and the players that he likes. And you can tell that from the pre-season teams that he's picked as well. You can see what he wants to do. But it's like, unless he's going to get the backing to make the team his own, he's kind of sat up the foul, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I kind of felt a bit sorry for him when he was getting pelters at the end of last year, because he was damaged limitations. At the end of the day, it was just keep us up and then we'll see what we can do next year.
See what we can do next year. Yeah.
But if it continues in the first 10 games, then even I would be like, come on. He's got to get better than this, Potter. This
is my concern. It's like, you know, he hasn't. This whole thing about us being broke has not helped one bit, and I don't think he's been fully backed. You know, you could. When I look at the signings that we've made, you can argue that a Carl Walker-Peters signing is a sensible signing. Whoever pushed that through. You look at the Wilson signing and you go, come on, mate. You know, how many years have we needed a decent young striker, and we haven't done it, and we're not doing it again. But for me, getting that keeper in, getting Diouf in, has been fantastic. We've got to get the right midfielder in now. You know, because if we get the right midfielder in and we keep the rest of what we've got, I think that could be quite a good solid season. But I'm with you. If we finish 10th, 11th, 12th, I think that's a really good season. Yeah. And I know that sounds like a bit, you know, we should be aiming higher. But I'm with you. I would say look and see what happens in the first 10 games. But I don't think, and it's me being Mr. You know, positive, I don't think we're going to be drawn into a relegation battle. You're spot on about what you said about the likes of Brentford and Bournemouth and clubs like that. Even Forest have lost, and they're still going to lose.
I think
some good players.
I think whenever you're looking at a new season, a lot of people every person who supports a football club just lives in that bubble. You rarely look at what other teams are doing. But as you know, still, I just have a wider interest in football in general. So I always think that when you go into a new season, you don't just have to look at how your team looks and what your team's got. You've got to look at what other teams are doing. And like I say, like the newly promoted teams all struggle. Even when they throw money at the window, they all struggle to some degree because the Premier League is such a big jump. Yeah, so those three clubs are going to be probably in and around it. It's rare that they're not. And then, like I say, you look at a Brentford who have lost, you know, Mbeumo, they lost Norgard. They're probably going to lose Wissa because he looks like he wants out as well. So that's three key players from last year. You look at Bournemouth, they lost Kirkes to Liverpool. They lost the centre-back to Madrid. You know, so, and the other fella, the Ukrainian, Zabaya, is it? Or Zabemya, whatever his name is, the other centre-back. PSG are heavily linked with him. They could lose 3 of their 4 defenders. you know, from last year. So you've got to look at how other teams have been affected by the transfer window as well. And I just think there are other teams that are being made weaker as well. So
Yeah,
if
and I don't
West
think
Ham
we've
get on
been
a
made
run,
weaker.
who
Yeah.
knows? You know, like if you can get a few positive results behind you, you just who knows?
Absolutely. See, the thing is, despite the mix of, I think what I got carried away with the transfer window was the Macaulay project, you know, and I sold myself on, well, Macaulay's going to go out and get all these players, you know, 15 mil, you know, all these up and coming players, etc. And then people reminded me, you've only got to look at what they did at Brighton. They didn't just go out and buy. Of course, they bought these young players who they
The
sold for
difference is
millions.
though, still that the Brighton's chairman is just a better geezer to work for.
Yeah.
I still question why you approach Chelsea, you pay them the money you pay them to get Macaulay to come in to work with Potter, and they're being allowed to set up a recruitment team. If you're just going to go out there
And
above the
get whatever
manager
player you want.
and sign Wilson and
Yeah.
try and sign a goalkeeper from Brazil because you've been told he's only 8 million euros. Like
Yeah.
all the keepers we got linked with. It does not surprise me that the one that nearly got done was the cheapest of the lot. Yeah, because that's how Sully operates. So it's like it's all well and good having this database system. I want to recruit young players. I want to do this. I want to find gems from all over Europe. This is how we're going to do things. But you can only do that if you're the
back.
person you work for
Yeah.
is going to back you.
Here's
you
the
know?
massive irony, though, mate. You know, if Sullivan allowed them to do that, in the next 2 or 3 years, Sullivan could, you know, the
Make
amount of
loads
money
of
you
money.
make on the players that you buy now.
I see a really funny clip of Brighton's owner recently. He basically was doing like a fan Q&A. So he'd invited all these like fan groups, people like yourself that make content and whatever. And one of the fans got up and said, do you have a special relationship with Chelsea? And he giggled and he said, well, you've just sold Peds, like so obviously João Pedro's just gone there for like 60 million or whatever. He just sold João Peds, one of our best players, to Chelsea again. And the owner just sat there and just like obviously joking because obviously it's all tongue in cheek, but he was like, well, they are my finest customer, and in business we need good customers. And he's like, we've probably taken more money off Chelsea than we have, you know, any other club. But he went, but this is our model. He went, we'll use that money to go and get, you know, more players. And he said, and I promise you, Brighton will still be a Premier League club. And that's the thing. And it's like, if Sully was actually clever, you could build that Brighton model, and then you'd find
and he could build it.
Then he'd actually get to a point where the transfer windows would be sustainable. So rather than borrowing money off the bank, you could actually just fucking fund it yourself.
This is it. This is what I've said, and it's ironic that, you know, he doesn't see this. It's funny because when Steiden left, you know, the response from Sullivan behind closed doors was, I've got to fix his mistakes. And Steiden did make mistakes, but at the same time, you said right at the start of the show, Steiden got the players in. You know,
whether you like Steiden or not, whether you thought he did a good job or whatever, when it came to transfers, when we were really solidly linked with a player, it was done within a couple of days.
Yeah,
and he was always him. He'd fly out, get it done. He got it over the line. Yeah. Whereas now, I feel like there's a lot of fart arsing about.
We're back to where we were. You know,
even the bloody Malik deal. It was we were told about it, and then it kind of like just went quiet, and I was like, "Oh, is that not happening then?" And then like it was like 3 weeks later, it got announced. It was like, "Why is it taking 3 weeks?"
Yeah,
you know, it's because like you've got
because that's 3 weeks of salary he didn't have to pay.
Structuring the deal. 1% now, 99% over 10 years. You know, honestly.
Right. It's been an hour and a half, mate. Really, it always is a pleasure. And thank you. And I know you're busy, and I know I've been asking this guy if he can come on because his football brain is a lot better than mine. And it is.
You do yourself a disservice, though, still.
Well, no.
Yours is generally one of the few bloody, you know, fan channels I sit and watch. So
thank you for that. It is a pleasure. A great pleasure. Thank you, mate. Hopefully, you know, if you're up for it again, you know, I'll have you on. No problem. I'm going to go through. You're more than welcome to stay and read the chats with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's go to the. I've got about 20 odd comments. So, Stel, do you think Madsen? Apparently, when I say Manson, he sounds like Marilyn Manson. Do you think he'll start against Sunderland, or will Areola's penalty heroics save him? I think Areola starts. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Mads has been bought in as the future number one, but whether or not they'll throw him in against
I think
Sunderland game one.
he will end up being our number one by the end of
Do
the
you,
season.
do you know what I think will happen? It will just be like wait until Areola makes a mistake.
Yeah.
Which will take
I agree.
25 minutes of game one.
James, I prefer Alvarez, Potts, and Pac-Man in midfield for the time being, but we desperately need a midfield shake-up. Yeah. I'd start with that. I don't. What do you think? You know, from the options that we've currently got.
Potts and Alvarez as holders makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. They're kind of. See, this is it. Alvarez. I mean, if we're going to sell Alvarez, by the sounds of it tonight, it sounds like we might do. Then we may not see him play. But
do you know what it is? It's awful. It's awful to say this about your team, isn't it? But like, I look at areas of our team and I go, "Christ!" Like always look at Bowen and I think, "Oh, box office," and I think about Paqueta and I think, "Oh, like silky Brazilian," and then I look at our centre mids and I just think like, it's like watching like a white wall dry. You know, those bland paint, you're just sitting there watching it dry for 6 hours. That's what our midfield's like. It's so boring.
You're absolutely right.
I look at other teams' midfields and I'm like, I'd kill for a player.
Yeah, I know. All we want is one of them. You know, one of those players that picks the ball up from the 18-yard box and within 10 seconds they're.
I can't stand Arsenal, right? But you look at Arsenal, they got like Rice, Zubmenda, they got what's his name? Like their centre mids are just incredible. Like I just think like just want one. You just lend us one, you know, just for a year.
Gaza80, have we put in a bid yet? X said this afternoon, then this evening, it's all crap one. Look, my understanding is that there is an interest that he's talking about Fernandes. There is an interest in Fernandes, but as I mentioned earlier in the show, the problem is not so much putting a bid in, it's about his agent, who apparently doesn't always work with clubs who are not one of his favorite clubs. You know, Mendes has got certain clubs he works with. So let's see what happens there. Avid, evening to you, mate. So when's Brownhill getting announced? We all know he's coming in. So
31st of August. That's when he'll get announced. I reckon he'll happen right at the end.
Right at the end. Angus, a question. What's wrong with Andy Irving as a box-to-box midfielder? Whenever I see him, he seems to play intelligently and constructively. We've talked about him. Good squad player.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I just don't. But I see the point that they're making, though.
Yeah.
Whenever I've watched him, I've never watched him and thought.
You've never been disappointed.
But I've never watched him and thought like, oh, he's going to play us into trouble or anything. He's just a tidy. He's just a tidy player, isn't he?
But he hasn't got that kind of engine, has he? He hasn't got that. When I've got, who am I thinking of? What sort of players? You know, like the players that they had at Chelsea, that little N'Golo Kante and they're the players I'm thinking of when it comes to box. You know, the real hard nuts, real tough, solid. Irving doesn't look like a real tough, solid box to box, does he?
Yeah.
You know. Michael, where do players like Somerville and Guilherme fit in this Potter system with no wingers? That's a really good question.
So the system works in that they are technically more like attacking midfielders, but they are used for width because they're the ones that will double up on the overlaps with the fullbacks or wing backs, however you want to look at it. So I don't really think that they're proper like out and out attacking mids. I think they're more like narrow wingers.
They're a 5-4-1, aren't they? Formation.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's so strange when you actually look at the formation, mate. It's so hard to work out. It really is. It changes as it evolves as the game goes on as well.
It's not a bad thing though.
It's not because like we were so rigid under Moyes.
Yeah.
It was one way of doing
4-2-3-1 and nothing else.
Yeah, it was one way of doing things. Whereas, like, I think we're probably a bit more comfortable in this formation, this three at the back, than we are his, bog standard sort of 4-2-3-1. But
and Norman's asking a similar question. Could you ever see Potter revert into a 4-4-2, 4-3-3?
I think he could play a 4-3-3. I wouldn't be surprised if he played that. I think I think we'd actually be quite comfortable in a 4-3-3. Actually,
Yeah. I'll go with that. Yeah.
You get more out of Bowen in a 4-3-3 because he's
You would.
The width.
If anyone watched the show that was on this morning, there's a guy from 6foot2.co.uk, Andy, who does the cartoons. I don't know if you've seen them.
Yeah.
And we put one out earlier today, and about Sean and his dad, Sully. They're hilarious. They're absolutely hilarious. Graham, does payment for goals mean that Wilson will never pass to a better position player?
There is that worry.
Well, if he scores, I don't care whether he passes or not.
He's going to be having to go from halfway line every game.
He ain't got it. It'll take him half a day to get from the halfway line to the goal, wouldn't it? Usual. Stel, would you get into an Uber drive? Would you get into an Uber driver? Was Antonio?
That geezer's written off more supercars than
I know
actual racing drivers, isn't he?
Robert, question: Orford. I like Orford. I think he's the player for the future, but I think he'll go out on loan. I don't know what you think.
I think a loan to a championship club would probably be the best thing for him.
Yeah. Anthony, is Earthy going back on loan to Bristol? They apparently want him on a permanent signing.
We were going to give him a go, and then he got injured, didn't he?
And then he got injured. So I think he's going to miss out on going out on loan because he's not back from injury. So by default, in a way, Anthony, I think he'll stay in the squad. I don't know how much game time he'll get.
Well, they really wanted to give him a go, didn't they, in pre-season?
They did.
And then he got injured.
Yeah. So I think by default, he'll stay because he's still injured. He won't get to go on loan. Paul, knowing the big six have all strengthened, who out of the big six do you see us getting 3 or 6 points against? It's got to be Liverpool this season, isn't it? We've got to get something off them. Wishful thinking.
Jesus. Man United are always there for the taking. Man
United, Spurs.
We proved that we can actually hold our own against Man United already in pre-season.
Yeah.
We played quite well against Man United, but Spurs are still considered top 6 is incredible to me. It's fucking shit.
Yeah.
They were
well,
awful
it's going to be. Well, let's not make this about Kudus and Spurs, but I think
that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. Honestly, I'd be telling. Obviously, and no manager would say it because they're not like West Ham like we are. But like, if I was the manager, I'd be telling them like, first 5 minutes, I want you to stick him in Rosehead. Just let him know you're there. Because I think Kudus sort of player that would shit himself.
Well, I want Alvarez.
Teammate just sticking him in the front row.
Well, this is the first time I'd want Alvarez. I'd be happy for Alvarez to get a red card if he stuck one on him, But hey, let's not be bitter. Avid, if we sign this kid from Southampton, do we really expect him to displace Ward-Prowse in Potter's eyes? I fear it's Potts being dropped, not Ward-Prowse, especially since rumour is that Ward-Prowse has been made vice captain. Well, if you saw the show at the beginning, mate, apparently if we get the right offer for Ward-Prowse, he'll be sold. But what let's say, Dan, we keep Ward-Prowse. Who gets dropped out of that lineup for Fernandes?
I don't know, mate. The trouble is, there's this narrative now, though, that Ward-Prowse is like Potter's favourite because he started every pre-season game, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, it's tough. The trouble is with Ward-Prowse is he is a natural leader. He was captain at Southampton. He's one of the senior players now. And I think managers like that. They like leaning on players like that. Yeah. And I love Jared Bowen. He is head and shoulders above everybody else at this football club. He's our best player, right? Yeah. But he isn't captain material. So we actually need leaders on the pitch. Like I've not been convinced in Bowen at all with the armband. He just doesn't come off. He doesn't give captain energy. Yeah. I understand why he was made captain because he's been there a long time, senior player. But I think that's what it is with Potter sometimes. It's just like he wants leaders on the pitch, and JWP's kind of got a history of that. It'd be gutting though if Potts wasn't given opportunity because of Sean and Ward-Prowse in, and then him not turning up and playing well when Potts could have been given
I've got a feeling he's played Ward-Prowse a lot more in pre-season because he just hasn't really. He's got a system he wants to play, and he thinks Ward-Prowse fits that system better than the likes of Souček and all others. But I think if we did get this kid, and I think Ward-Prowse would be dropped, I don't think Potts will suffer. I think it would be, but I totally get your point about there being leaders out there, and I get that. He's been captain, as you said, he was captain for Southampton for most of his career. So, yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question, but it will be obvious for people to say, yeah, Potts is the one that's going to be sacrificed, but I'm not so sure. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, it's a shame Souček ain't a better player because he would have been. I'd have made him captain.
Yeah,
Souček, if he could just do the bit between boxes, like he'd be my captain.
Yeah, I agree with that. Neil, if you believe in a possession-based game, how the hell does Ward-Prowse fit in with a quick, decisive break that is needed for this type of game? So, yeah, I think we've kind of covered that.
You could say that about any of the midfielders, to be fair.
Well, that is true as well, yeah. Daniel, does Earthy get bled in as an attacking forward? Dan first, sorry, still no badgering. Go on then, Dan.
I don't know. If he misses out on a loan, then like you say, by default, still he's going to be in and around it, isn't he? But yeah, I'd imagine he'd be used as one of them that plays behind the striker. But to get in, he's got to get in ahead of Bowen, Guilherme,
Somerville coming back.
So it's going to be hard for him to get minutes, isn't it? If he does stay.
Angus, when is Somerville coming back? My understanding, it's always been September. So no, I've not heard anything about a problem with his recovery. But my understanding is it will be early September.
Why didn't he just have that operation straight away?
No, mate, don't know.
Ended up having to have it anyway. Why didn't he just
be ready?
He would have been. He would have played pre-season, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would have done. Trodge, Guilherme looked good when he came on for Kudus, even though he was lucky to get 10 minutes. Yeah, I think we agree with that. I think Guilherme has got a big season ahead of him. Barry, cute question. Was PSR brought in to stop the Super League and nothing else?
Probably.
Yeah.
Protect all the big clubs.
Yeah. And it's done that, hasn't it? Like we said earlier, the way they've been spending money. Anthony, would you want to finish higher than Spuds, Gooners and win nothing? I want to win something. I don't mind finishing 17th and winning the FA Cup. Quite honest with you.
Oh, I say it every season. People think I'm mad when I say it, but if we got a cup final, but like we finished 17th, like think about Spurs. Spurs just won the Europa League, but had a terrible league season, but they got to lift a trophy.
Yeah, well, yes, that sticks in the all, but yeah,
yeah, it's all. See, I get it. I get it more than most because my brother-in-law's married to Spurs and all her family are all Spurs. So yeah.
Let's do a few more comments and then we'll go. Gavin, we're okay as long as we have Paqueta. He's better than we've seen so far. The only true world-class player we have. There's a reason Man City were going to pay 85 mil. He can carry a club on his game, on his day. I don't disagree with that. James, everyone was sucking Steiden off after last summer transfer window. Then it was Sullivan's fault when it went tits up. It was everyone's fault. That last summer, when we were patting ourselves on the back, we won. I'll never forget people saying it. We won the transfer window, whatever the hell that meant last summer.
Yeah, but to be fair, right? To be fair, if we'd have got a manager that we all wanted, those players might have worked. There's a couple that clearly wouldn't. Like Guido was never going to work in the Premier League, but those players might have worked. This is the thing: is like a lot of people give Steiden a lot of grief and stuff, but like I don't think that all of them are inherently bad players. I just don't think they suited Lopetegui's system. And like we were given a manager that none of us wanted, and we all knew would fail. We all knew Lopetegui wouldn't work. Every single member of the West Ham fan base knew it.
Yeah.
So I don't actually think. Like, I'm not one of these people that's going to, like, badmouth Steiden. Because, like, before he joined, we weren't buying Kudoses and we weren't buying these sorts of players, and then all of a sudden we are. So because the one thing he was good at was getting deals over the line.
Getting the deals. Yeah, I've got to be honest. After Steiden left, we did talk about Wilson. So long as he scores goals, true culture, that's the important thing.
Kind of how I feel about it.
There's a guy called Ebby who sits in the Bobby Moore Lower, German fan, West Ham fan, and he comes over and watches the games. And he was saying to me last year, he was sending me snippets of stories from the German press about Steiden. And he went, read that. I had to fucking get them all translated because they were all in German. But once I did, I started thinking, Steiden's not all he's made out to be. And there was a lot of criticism about Steiden, about the way he was at his previous club in Germany, why he left, because he was overlooked for promotion for the director of football, I think it was. And the person that got promoted was the guy that was working under him, and it started to sort of unravel. And I started to look more into it. And it's interesting because I remember when Steiden was coming and the positive stuff I was putting out, this guy's unbelievable. These are all the players that he brought in to Bayer Leverkusen. He made that team and so on and so forth. And then starting to read the stuff that Ebby was sending me, it was like, maybe he's not quite, the kind of. And when I look at the transfer window and I look at some of the players that he brought in, and I hope Füllkrug works, but he certainly wasn't the right choice last year. And I hope, Guilherme works, but he certainly wasn't the right choice last year. And I know.
But the trouble is, though, still, it depends how these things are spun, because we were all led to believe that Füllkrug cost 27 million quid. But we were told this summer it's nowhere near that amount. So actually, that deal looks better than it actually seemed at the time. And this is the trouble. It's like, I think that stories are just manipulated in a way to throw people under buses, so that none of it comes back on the owner or certain people. Like I don't think Füllkrug did an amazing job, but I don't think he did a bad job. Steiden, I don't think he did a bad job though. Like I say, I don't think we get a Kudos and an Alvarez, for instance, and they both had very good first seasons. And I don't think we get players like that without him, because we've seen how Sullivan operates in the transfer window. So that's the thing. It's like I don't think he was like terrible. I would still like us to use a director of football.
We do need a director of football, but it's never going to happen again, is it?
No, because Sully now just thinks it's a model that isn't going to work for him because it didn't work with Steiden. So
yeah. Right. I think that's it. We've done another 20 minutes off the back of that. Honestly, really appreciate it, mate. Really appreciate it. I'm back. West Ham Weekly is back. It's going to be back on now, I guess, on a regular basis. Looking forward. Let me finish off by asking you score predictions for this coming weekend. Sunderland. It's only Sunderland away from home. They're going to be chomping at the bloody bit to have a win at the first game of the season.
We're always shit against Sunderland.
Sorry?
We're always shit against Sunderland. I remember, I'm going back some years now. Might have been the first time we were down in the Championship. They won the league at Upton Park. I was there that year. And so I've always disliked them because they were all celebrating, obviously, because they'd won the league. So I hope we stuff them. I do hope we stuff it. I really don't know. I'm gonna go 2-1 West Ham, just because it's opening weekend, and I hope we get the 3 points.
Yeah, I think we're going to struggle, and we're going to same as what happened in the game against Lille on Saturday. Is it's going to be boring. We're going to struggle. We're going to counter each other out, and then we'll wake up in the final 15 minutes and we'll win. We'll be losing 1-0 and we win 2-1.
Yeah,
I fucking hope so.
Yeah, are you going?
I am. I'm kind of like, it's going to be a long day because we're coming back the same day.
Oh,
but it's too expensive staying up there. It's too, it's like, you know what it's like, Dan.
Well, just a day out now at the football is just so pricey, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're going up there very early in the morning. We're coming back very late at night. But yeah, I'm going. I'm apprehensively looking forward to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Gavin, this man should have his own channel, and he doesn't anymore. He doesn't do football. He doesn't do football. He doesn't do football channels.
I used to. I've got like 2 kids, 5 and 2. I ain't got time.
But you do a channel.
But I just jump on here with you, don't I? Still, so
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. No, he's great. I mean, he's a very watchable, very listenable guy. So I'm glad that you were on, mate. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. There'll be a transfer show tomorrow, I'm sure. I'll do a pre-record of something. I'll try and bring you the stuff that's worth listening to rather than the stuff that ain't. But in the meantime, mate, thank you very much. And I'll
welcome, mate.
Chat to you soon.
Yep.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your comments. Really appreciate it. I'll see you all soon.